Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today's founder is Samuel Huntington, a longtime governor of the state of Connecticut. Now, Samuel Huntington actually came from very little. He worked on his father's farm and was apprenticed as a cobbler, aka shoemaker, for a while, but ends up focusing on his parents' farm. But he's fortunate enough to borrow some books from some local neighbors and study himself. And despite little formal education, by the time he's 24, he's taught himself law to the degree that he passes the bar. In colonial Connecticut through the 1760s, he becomes very important as a lawyer and starts serving in the colonial assembly. He also gets promoted eventually to be king's attorney, which essentially is like attorney general today, but back when the monarch was in charge, they called it king's attorney. He served in this position for several years before eventually being promoted to the colonial Supreme Court. Now, Huntington's only on the Supreme Court for about a year until he resigns gracefully because he's vocally supporting the Patriots on the eve of the American Revolution, and let's just say the king didn't necessarily care for that. Either way, he ends up supporting the revolution, and in November of 1775, after the war breaks out, he's sent to the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. While he's there the following year, he is a vocal supporter of independence, an early supporter of independence, and as such votes for independence and signs the Declaration. He continues to attend the Continental Congress for the next several years, during which time he supports the Articles of Confederation and signs that first government of the United States, and he is elected president of the Continental Congress. In fact, he is sitting president of the Congress in 1781 when the Articles of Confederation are finally ratified by the last state of Maryland, and as such, he is the first president of the United States in Congress assembled. Now, let's not be beat around the bush here. President of the United States at the time is not the same thing as President of the United States now. It was a ceremonial position. You ran the meetings and you signed most of the correspondence, and Samuel Huntington does have his signature on some very important correspondence, but we don't want to confuse it as the presidency as we know it now. Either way, after the war ends, Huntington returns to Connecticut, where he serves as simultaneously Lieutenant Governor and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, a pretty powerful man at the time. And you see this even more 2 years later when he is elected as governor of the state of Connecticut. And he would hold the position of governor of Connecticut for the remaining 10 years of his life, a full decade, until he passes away in 1796, during which time he did a whole slew of things, including settling a border dispute between neighboring New York and Massachusetts. Connecticut had land claims out in Ohio, so Huntington actually had a big role in the settling of certain areas of what we now know as the state of Ohio, and a wide variety of other things. Additionally, the Constitution was presented at this time, and Huntington, as governor of the state, oversaw Connecticut's ratification convention of the U.S. Constitution, and from there, he helped transition this young state into a member of the Union. So that is the abbreviated story of Samuel Huntington, a person I didn't know a ton about until I started researching him this week, and he had a really, really large role in the American Revolution. A lot of people from Connecticut had surprisingly large roles, but that is Samuel Huntington. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, hit like. If you're new here, subscribe, and I'll be back with another founder for you ASAP.